Joining me, all-star panel, John Carney, financial journalist, Brian Brenberg and Jackie DeAngelis, both co-hosts of the Great Big Money Show, right here on fabulous Fox Business. The what?
The Hot Money Show,
The Hot
Stuart
Money Show.
calls us.
I love it, the Hot Money Show. Fabulous stuff. Terrific. John Carney, I begin with you. It is interesting, we're supposed to re-privatize the economy, but private jobs, they've basically been steady. When you take out you invented this, the, what did you call it?
Government adjacent.
Government adjacent healthcare and social assistance. When you take it out, you really haven't had any job gains in the last 3 months, basically flat. So what do you make of the overall report?
It is evidence that monetary policy has been too tight for too long. You can't look at this report and say, oh, yeah, it's very good that the Fed just ignored interest rates for months now to come. It's too bad, really, that the BLS doesn't do a better job of getting the numbers right the first time. Because if they had this negative figure for June, back when the Fed last met, I think they would have cut. Now we had to wait till September. Now the Fed's going to have to rush. I think they may have to do a 50 basis point cut in September, particularly to catch up with the number you just said. You're absolutely right. They need to get to 3% in a hurry. They're way above that. They should be cutting every meeting from now through March.
Do you know, this is so interesting. Brian, go to you. The response rate to the August, right? They don't really call people. They call companies for the so-called non-farm payrolls, which is the corporate measure, and they call individual households for the so-called household survey of employment. Anyway, the response rate this August was 56.7%.
Wow.
For the month of August, the prior 10 years, the response rate was 70%. So how can they figure out this story? They got to figure out a whole different approach, it seems.
They do. And, even in those years when it was a higher response rate, August always got the biggest revisions in jobs. So and you say everybody made a big deal when they let go of the head of the BLS. How could they do that? And I understand she wasn't on the job that long, but they had a long time to start getting this problem under wraps, right? We've known about this since 2022. So I think there's been kind of a dereliction of duty at the BLS. And what it's done is undermine the credibility there as well. Nobody gets these numbers anymore and says, well, I can tell you how the jobs market is doing. We don't. It's like horseshoes. And these guys aren't very good at horseshoes. They're not even getting leaners, Larry, in horseshoes right now.
Horseshoes?
You played horseshoes, right?
I've seen horseshoes.
I think you'd be pretty good at horseshoes. So this is
Papa Bush was the horseshoe guy, remember? That was his favorite sport. He was trying to teach you because he really was a man of
He should have worked for the BLS because that's what they're doing right now.
He should have worked for the BLS. That would have been, never mind. I don't want to go there. It's really not important. I want to talk to my friend Jackie DeAngelis. 2 points, Jackie. Number one, federal government payrolls since January down almost 100,000, okay?
Yes.
I got to say that's a big plus in this report.
Me too. Okay, right. We're on the same page.
And I did want to ask you, well, you usually finish my sentence.
I know.
And I did want to ask you, though, I haven't seen it yet, the R word, the recession word from this. And besides Elizabeth Warren and crazy people like that, but federal payrolls down, private payrolls flat. Is there an R word out there?
People are floating it, but it depends what channel you're watching, right? If you're watching a left-leaning channel, that's what they're going to go for, right, for the jugular. I would say this is the Goldilocks report that is going to get the Fed to cut. It's going to motivate it to do that. It should be doing that based on these labor numbers and based on the inflation rate. You can argue they could have done it sooner, whatever it takes to happen. The added cost, of course, or the added benefit, rather, is going to be that the cost of borrowing goes down, and that is a substantial thing that Donald Trump has been fighting for as well when he acknowledges and puts his 2 cents in. So the government jobs was down. That was positive. The non-native workers were down. Left-leaning channels are going to tell you how terrible that is and the world's going to implode, but I also think that's a positive when the native-born workers went up by a substantial amount. And the president has talked about, I talk about his economic policy as a big, beautiful wheel with many different spokes, and they all work together to make that wheel function, but they don't all always act right at the same time. And so he's gotten all this foreign investment in as a result of his tariff policy. That's going to take roughly a year or so to really start to work its way through the system. And that is going to keep us from going into any kind of recession. And he talked about that on Thursday. He doesn't get these numbers in advance or anything like that.
He gets them Thursday night.
Oh, he does.
I used to give it
Would
to
you
him.
think he had them when he was sitting at the table?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that was the argument he made, and I thought it was a good one.
No, he would have.
He didn't look at him that closely, though, because he did say all the jobs are in construction, and we got a construction contraction. So it wasn't, he didn't look at it that closely.
Upside down.
That might have been wish unfulfillment. No, what happens is the director of NEC and or the CEA chair gets the numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the Labor Department. The Fed gets them also. You get them late Thursday afternoon. And I would tend to filter. I mean, if I thought they were interesting, I'd show it to him, good or bad. I mean, he's a big boy. I mean, he can take a bad number too. This wasn't the worst number in the world. But John Carney, one thing is what Jackie is saying. Look, first of all, we're seeing very big numbers in factory orders and business capital. I'll call it CapEx. That's right out of the tax cut playbook. I mean, you've got those incentives built in fact, retroactive to January 20th. So that's taking effect. The second point important here is that as far as, let's say, middle-income folks, blue-collar folks, of course, waitresses and Uber drivers and the like, the tax-free tips is not in yet. They haven't executed that yet. And the overtime pay, too. The IRS hasn't figured out how to do that, God knows. And then the seniors, the benefits, the higher deduction for seniors, so only probably 10 or 12% will pay it. That stuff's not done yet. That's still over the horizon out there.
Right, we do have stimulus from that coming. The other thing we have in this report that got widely overlooked is the working class wages are going up at a pretty rapid rate, 0.4% for the month. And I think that this is actually working in connection with the CapEx. One of the things that we saw was that companies no longer have the availability and the promise of forever availability of cheap labor because we are cracking down on immigration. So what do they need to do? They need to improve efficiency by making capital investments. We saw a strong productivity gain in the second quarter. I think we're going to see more CapEx investment because that's how they're going to improve output, not by being able to hire in, an unlimited immigration
Well, that's
pool.
interesting because hours worked fell. Actually, hours worked for all employees was flat. Hours worked for production-related employees actually fell. And for the last 3 months, both are negative. So hours worked coming down. I don't know if that's good. I, on the whole, don't think that's a great idea.
I wonder how much of that is AI.
Well, that's the argument John's making, essentially, is a productivity-related argument. And so time will tell. But, Brian, I want to come back to my riff. Scott Bessent, good friend. I thought he wrote an excellent piece today. You're going to have a remember, I would say a month or two ago, he said we need a top-to-bottom review of the Fed's non-monetary areas, regulatory. Now he's saying everything. He's right on that. On the other hand, I'd like to see somebody stand up for the dollar because I think that the dollar is an important keystone to economic prosperity. And in particular, I know the president wants the dollar to be the world's reserve currency, America first, yeah. But if it keeps falling against other currencies, it won't be on demand as the world's reserve
Well, that's
currency.
really important in a world where you have countries that would like to dethrone the dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that people are going to lose confidence. You have big adversarial countries.
You got these Chinese. Did you see them holding hands with the Indians?
China,
I'm not
Russia,
going to say.
India.
I'm not going to say what you don't want me to say. But the Chinese holding hands with the Indians and the Russians at the parade the other day.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
If you want the dollar to be king, if you want to be the reserve currency, then you got to treat it like a king.
In fact, I got to put King Dollar back in my own riff. I forgot.
I can't believe you didn't have it in there,
I coined
Larry.
that
I was
phrase
disappointed.
20 or 30 years ago. Well, man, I'm old.
Can I just say, Scott Bessent, so I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But what I love he's saying here is you need to make the Fed less all-encompassing. It can't be the everything for every area of the economy. That's what it's grown into.
Too much
That's
central
the gain
planning.
of function.
Too much central planning.
It's always going to be central
These
planning.
guys want to do everything, including, by the way, cultural central planning. I mean, they got heavily into woke. They got heavily into DEI. They got heavily into ESG, no loans to fossil-related companies. I mean, I mean, hey, Lisa Cook was a DEI hire. Almost everybody believes that.
The best defense of Fed independence is to stay on mission. Mission creep is the real threat to their independence. If they are doing DEI, if they are doing climate, they are inviting every other part of the government to say, well, that's our job. We're going to get involved in your job. They're undermining their own independence by doing this. Scott Bessent is actually saving the Fed if he brings them back to from itself.
By the way, I'm coming to you, promise. He'd make a hell of a Fed chairman.
I think Scott Bessent would make a great...
You look at this outline, and if you just let me add a King Dollar paragraph, you got yourself a very fine Fed chairman.
We've been telling you that. You said he's too important at Treasury. I told you that months ago.
He's got 6 months, though. 6 months. He's too important right now as we implement the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Like
6 months from now, he could be Fed chair.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Can I add one thing? I don't think Jerome Powell has been a great Fed chair, but part of the point Scott Bessent is making is that this all goes back to 2008 and the crisis and easy money and the amount of time that we saw interest rates at zero, historically speaking, was very, very significant. So this has been a crisis a long time in the making.
You're right.
And there were other Fed chairs that had their hands in this, too.
No, you are right. Ben Bernanke has his hand in that. Unfortunately, Alan Greenspan, his last term was his worst term. The prior terms, he was running policy off the gold price. Last term, he lost his mind. Anyway, you all terrific. I appreciate it very much, John Carney and Brian Brenberg and Jackie DeAngelis. One more time, you can catch Brian and Jackie along with their co-hosts Dagan McDowell and Taylor Riggs on the Hot Big Money Show, weekdays from noon to 2 p.m. every day right here on Fabulous Fox Business. And let's not forget John Carney.